Welcome back to another episode of PBO Perspectives in Business, Finance, and HR. Join us as we break down the complex business topics of today and share practical tips for maximizing efficiencies and increasing profitability. I'm Joey McCoy, and today we'll be discussing employee wellness programs, the different types of programs, the benefits to not only the employee, but the employer as well, and what you should consider when selecting an employee wellness program to implement. We are back with Fran San Diego, who is the CEO of PBO Advisory Group, and Rachel Allen, who is one of PBO's expert HR consultants. Hi, Fran and Rachel. Welcome back to the podcast. I want to start with you, Rachel. What are some different wellness programs that HR has highlighted in your experience?
So some things that you want to look at when you are putting a wellness program together, first is going to be your population and your employee needs for what they have. So you want to look at different aspects of financial wellness, mental health wellness, physical wellness. Those are all areas that get put into designing a good wellness program for your organization. So you need to first find out where your employees' interests lie and maybe where they could use some encouragement in educational aspects. So if you're looking to design like a financial wellness program, first you want to see, are your employees just starting off in the workforce? Have they looked at starting a retirement plan? Do they understand the need for it? Other areas, if you want to start a little smaller, you can look at talking to them about budgeting. You know, if it's someone's first job out of college, maybe they don't quite know how much to put aside for rent each month. Yeah. And, you know, they don't have those basics of budgeting down. So those are some things you want to look at depending upon your population.
Yeah, I think a good way to start that process of like figuring out what you want to focus on could be an employee survey and kind of get a unanimous or anonymous feedback about what people are really interested in. What is one of the more popular types of wellness programs? I think everybody's kind of familiar with an EAP program, an employee assistance program. And everyone kind of highlights the mental health piece of that, counseling sessions, but they do offer like financial advice, legal advice, and everything else. So what are some of the things that you see that are really popular?
Well, EAP programs are great. They are part of an overall wellness program. Like you mentioned, they don't just touch on the mental health aspect of it, but sometimes they can give some very generic legal counseling, financial counseling. They can point you in directions for wellness, health incentive programs.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to go into designing these programs, and EAP is just a small part of it. Just one thought on doing your program. One thing I have found to be important is that when you're rolling out a wellness program, it needs to be convenient for your employees.
That's the point.
Because they may not, if this was an area they already knew a lot about, you wouldn't need to be teaching them. So you want it to be easy for them, and if you're in an in-person environment, having like lunch and learns where you bring in lunch and you have a different topic, someone come in and talk about it. It's a really good way to get employees engaged and to learn. You can have your 401k provider come in and teach something about it. You could have a nurse come in and talk about nutrition on another day. You could even have a yoga instructor come in maybe and teach meditation, teach a yoga class. I worked someplace once that had once a week, they had a 45-minute yoga session. There was a space in a conference room, and those that were interested got to do it. And it was a great stress reduction. And
it's free.
And
free for the employees.
The employer did pay.
Yes, not free in total, but free for the employee.
But usually when it's a big group, it's worth it, and the return on that investment in the employer cost is great, because you're having employees come back to work healthier, more engaged, happier. They've had some team building that happened while they were, in these trainings, or different kind of sessions. So there's a lot of return on investment for a wellness program.
100%.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So a lot of the health insurance companies that work with employers, it seems that they're also rolling out some sort of health and wellness programs.
Yes.
Do the insurance brokers help facilitate or coordinate with that? How does that work? Because I think that there's a more focus on preventative wellness and not health. So do you have any thoughts about
Yes.
that?
Your broker definitely can help with this. A lot of insurance companies, when you put in a formal wellness plan, they will offer you deductions on your premiums. If you have specific plans in place, and they will also sometimes give you money towards bringing a wellness program. Some health insurance companies do that as well. So you definitely want to talk to your broker and get there's formalized apps for different kind of wellness programs, probably through different insurance companies as well. But then there's also ones that you can put together yourself, just depending on what the budget is that you're gonna have.
But yeah, to your point as well, I've noticed that some insurance companies like Anthem, like they actually have their own like free, wellness program that they offer with the insurance versus like brokers are in a business, they want to sell you something, right? So they may try to add on another separate plan with an additional cost.
And really, business owners like ourselves should understand all of those benefits because we're paying significant premiums. And so we should also be starting to understand with our benefits plans what is offered and make that the employees aware so that they can maximize the use of those programs.
Yeah, they can promote it as well. And I know that some of these wellness programs, they offer like discounts at like, for maybe your local gym or the various things. But what kind of price points are they looking at? Like, do you have any idea about, do you know what like?
I think it's a really good question to be asking brokers. So if there are additional wellness programs, what are the premium advantages? And, with any of these sorts of programs, we're looking at return on investment, and so if we can invest in a yoga instructor for an hour, which significantly reduces the stress of our employees and their productivity and their happiness, shows up at work, it's likely worth it.
Yeah, I actually brought that up because I was working on this for a client, and their broker essentially, because I asked, they said if you add a life insurance policy, we'll throw in the free EAP plan as well. And so I think that was really beneficial because they didn't even really want a life insurance policy, and then they ended up doing it because they got a free EAP program, so it kind of paid for itself. But
the cost for it usually is going to depend on the size of the group that's going in and how many participants you have for it, but you can get some offset of that price a lot of times through your health insurance. Okay,
great. So on an accounting side, Fran, what are some things that you would kind of look for with this?
Financial wellness is such a huge gamut of issues, and it really does depend on your employee base and the needs and where they are in their situation. I had a client actually, for instance, who had a significant amount of its employees were first generation, and so just navigating planning for personal taxes, payroll taxes is different in the United States than it is in other countries. And understanding mortgages and terms and variable interest rates and all of those sorts of things that some of us take for granted are huge learning curves for folks. So, to Rachel's point, really understanding where your employees are and what their needs are is vastly important. For a company like ours, PBO Advisory Group, we have a lot of accountants and then we've got a lot of HR folks. And even still, it's important for us to remind our folks about the benefit of a 401k plan and the benefit that an employer is matching your dollar for dollar, which is free money to you, and what that looks like over the period of time of your career is immense. I talk a lot about when I was a young person, I tell all of the people that I work with, when I was young, I put money in my 401k and I didn't miss it. I didn't even really think about it. And that 401k is how I bought my first house. I was able to loan the money out of my 401k plan for the down payment for my first house. And I never would have been able to do that without that 401k.
That's amazing.
So just those little things. And so again, your 401k advisors and your financial planners are also available to your employees for their very specific individual questions and planning. So really cultivating that relationship, making sure your team members know who those people are, how they can contact them. That's what they do. They want to be of service to us. So there's all sort financial wellness budgeting is a huge one for all of us these days, with the cost of things going up and really understanding where we're spending our money and how we can be efficient with our resources.
Another thing to think about with your 401k platform, a lot of time they're offering online financial educational tools.
That's true.
And employees sometimes don't realize it. So communicating that out to them, just an email blast even of, hey, here's the link. Remember, you have this resource available to you is going to be really helpful, because that'll be a way to reach some of your employees that may not be able to attend a lunch and learn or sit through a meeting on it, but it'll give them access to the tools that they already have at their fingertips. They just sometimes don't realize.
Yeah, and then there's some things that I noticed, like with 401ks specifically, I noticed that a lot of employees don't really understand the language around it, that it is pre-tax dollars, what that really means, because they just see the end, that it's taking money out of your check, right? That's what they see, the bottom dollar, like what it's doing to their check, but they don't understand that is pre-tax dollars and how that's investing and everything. And so I think educating people is really important. And it also gives businesses like the benefit of like showing their employees how much benefits they do offer, because some employees probably don't even know the extent of the benefits that they could be, getting from their company. So any other thoughts on this topic?
Another thing to do, a little stepping away from the financial aspect a little bit and more of the traditional health wellness program, is to, you could create some competition and some team building with like wellness challenges. There are lots of apps out there that'll help, like, step counters. You can have prizes. It could be all different kinds of, you log in your healthy activity that you did that day, and you can create teams and a good little healthy challenge between employees and coworkers. And not only is that helping preventative care with, physical health, but it's also going to create a really good bond and help with the culture of your environment as well, because you're getting employees engaged with each other. So it's kind of hitting a lot of different areas when you create like a team and create a challenge for around health.
Yeah, and you also want to promote the benefits that you're providing the employees, because if no one's using it, what's the point in providing it? So you really want to promote it and remind people to participate, because it is there for their benefit. Any other thoughts, Fran, on this topic?
I really love the healthy competition and the team environment. It's such a fun thing to do, to be able to cultivate supporting each other and being healthy. And it does provide an environment of, we care about each other as coworkers and team members, and then also, uplifts everyone in the end.
Well, that's about all the time we have today. That was a great topic. Lots of good ideas in there. I would like to thank you both, Fran and Rachel, for joining us again today. I think we're going to be seeing you next time when we go over leadership in the remote work environment. So that'll be another interesting topic, but I appreciate you taking the time today. And now for our PBO tip of the week. It's been a historically hot summer for much of the country already this year, and this level of extreme heat can be especially dangerous for anyone who's working outside. I can speak from personal experience. I worked as a lifeguard one summer when I was in college. I was living in Vegas at the time, and the heat is pretty unbearable when you're up there on that lifeguard stand. And I actually ended up getting sick from heat exhaustion one day because it was so hot. So employers do need to keep their employee safety in mind when it gets this hot outside. In fact, California does have regulations already in place on heat illness prevention, and I recommend taking a few minutes to familiarize yourself with these requirements. There have been standards in place for outdoor workers for a while now, but just a few weeks ago in the end of June, Cal OSHA passed a new regulation regarding protections for employees who work indoors as well. So regardless of whether a business has employees working outside or not, all businesses do need to be in compliance with the heat illness prevention standards. So what exactly are the standards? So companies will need to have a plan in place with details on what safety measures the company takes when there's extreme heat. They'll need to make sure employees have access to clean drinking water and that they have access to shaded areas and are given rest breaks. Air conditioners are working. The maintenance is being scheduled if the air conditioners are breaking. But the main thing I noticed that many companies seem to be forgetting about is that they need to hold proper employee training sessions on the company's heat illness prevention policy. So this is usually done during new hire orientation. But every employee does need to sign off on having been trained on this policy. And if you haven't done that, this may be a good time to go ahead and just get everybody trained. And then if you ever have an OSHA auditor walk in, you'll have nothing to sweat. I would like to thank our guests again for joining us today. For more information about PBO Advisory Group, please visit our website at pboadvisory.com. We're also on LinkedIn, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at PBO Advisory Group. Be sure to subscribe and join us again next time as we continue to explore more ways for businesses to drive success.